Today I'm with the Secretary General of Umkhonto Wesizwe, uBhuti Ubaba uNomvalo.
Once you impose a ward candidate, you are likely to lose elections. The damage which has been caused by illegal immigration in this country is very huge and very severe.
Are you a factionalist, Chief?
No.
Are you also hijacking the party?
I always ask myself, what does it take to hijack the party? A decision which was taken about this comrade was a collective decision. A decision to remove the spokesperson was taken before I came in.
So there was some resistance from the leader of the EFF.
There was some disagreement.
That no, I don't think this should be.
Yes. You know, even we're saying, I remember we're even saying there, because we're mentioning Khan. Who else did we mention?
Thank you very much. My name is Bonginkosi Khanyile. Abangaziyo bathi mina unqakanqa kuphandela umshini isikhafulagazi into engalali madubule egijima bathi 2x2 4x4 ngangayiyala mina ngixoxa umshushu senkantolo. Isibanyathele imbongolo. Silapha ohlelweni lomkhonto wesizwe. I would cordially want to welcome everyone to the Open Dialogue podcast of Umkhonto Wesizwe. For the second time today I'm with the Secretary General of Umkhonto Wesizwe, uBhuti Ubaba uNomvalo. Baba
Ngwane.
Siyabingelela
ndaba zethu. Ninjani kodwa?
Hayi kuyaphileka. How are you feeling? It's during winter. We are still in the revolution. It's youth month. And you are a relatively young Secretary General in the country and in history.
I'm feeling very energetic with a renewed sense of hope. And I'm very optimistic that the MK party will secure victory in the upcoming local government elections.
No, that's perfect. Abantu nje jobeshile unobhala, let's remind everyone, let's continue to register to vote and vote Umkhonto Wesizwe. The registration is opened online. You can still register online, but on the 1st and the 2nd of August, you can still go to your nearest voting station, make a follow-up, check your status, and register and vote Umkhonto Wesizwe. On the 4th of November, we are voting. Ziningi indaba nobhala ekhona ezweni. Kodwa ngithi ngale kwebalekile ama-volunteer ngicatha afuna ukuzwa mayebona ubuso bakho nje manje afuna ukuzwa ngoba idibene emabranchini. If I'm a member of Umkhonto Wesizwe party, and I wanted to be a ward councillor candidate of Umkhonto Wesizwe, what is the process?
No, the process is very simple and straightforward. The process is that you must be a product of the community, simple. Because we are living in a democratic society, so we don't want imposed leaders, because once you are imposed, no one will respect you. You are not going to enjoy respect from your society which you are leading. So the process is very simple. You go to your VD. If a ward, for instance, has 4 VDs, VDs must convene respectively, and then nominate or elect candidates from VDs. And then those VDs must ultimately convene a ward meeting, which will now consist of all these VDs situated in that ward, to select one candidate now who's going to be a ward representative. And once that has happened, a person who has emerged out of that process is going to be a ward candidate of the MK party. And we are always encouraging comrades to run this process with the highest level of fairness, discipline, and impartiality, because we don't want to go against the will of the people. If you impose councillors of your choice because you love them at the expense of the majority. That is in tantamount with the sabotage of the values of the democratic principles of the MK party. You are violating the guidelines and you are sabotaging the program of the organization, because once you impose a candidate, you are likely to lose elections, because the people will simply make a conclusion that you are disrespecting their voice, because once they speak in numbers and once they speak as the majority, we must respect that, even if that is not inconsistent with your personal wishes as a leader who is presiding over those processes. So we want a very fair and transparent process, like we were encouraging members of the MK party during the consultative forums, that let the will of the people prevail.
Yes.
Let the will of the membership of the MK party prevail. Now, in this regard, we are saying, let the will of our communities prevail, because, one thing you can never take, one power you can never take away from our communities is a power to decide. If you go against their will, they will simply punish you on a ballot paper. They will just look at you and say, we know where our power is, and we will exercise it openly and without any fear of contradiction and prejudice during the voting process. So that is why we're saying, if you are found to have gone against the will of the people, you must go through disciplinary processes, because we are simply sabotaging the work of the organization. We must ask ourselves as the MK party, why did we lose during the, we had these by-elections?
Yes.
After the 2024 national government elections. The awards which we won overwhelmingly during the 2024 elections. But when we went with those words to by-elections, we declined a great deal. And have we done a reflection? Have we done an assessment to say, what is it that we have done wrong? Why this huge decline all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And in my belief, in some of those areas, not in all of them, in some of those areas, we have undermined the will of the people. We did not give them what they want. So no one must impose councillors here or candidates. And if there are people who do that, they must be reported. We are going to act decisively and swiftly, because we can't afford to lose these elections because of such recklessness.
Yes.
And because of such unacceptable behaviors and autocratic behaviors of people who want to impose their girlfriends, their boyfriends, their family relatives, and so on and so forth. So if we follow these guidelines as they are, I can tell you with my eyes closed that the MK party will win these elections with the overwhelming majority. Mm.
So, because you have clarified the one of becoming a what candidate of the MKP party. So, if I want to become a mayor, a speaker of the municipality, do I apply? I ask you because that is the question that most people are asking on the ground. Remember, others, they come from different organizations where you can just easily apply directly to be a mayor, to be a speaker, and so on and so forth. I have an ambition of becoming a mayor or a speaker of the municipality. What becomes a process?
We have established in the guidelines a committee called the Elections Committee, which is, I think, the chair, if my memory serves me well, is the provincial coordinator. Even though we are going to amend to a certain extent the
Yes.
guidelines, but a selection will be made based on the discretion and based on merits, rather. Based on merits, we're going to outline a process of how we will select mayors
Yes.
or the leadership of the municipalities, ESCOs, and so on and so forth. So we are working now on a process that we will roll out, and that must be adhered to
Yes.
when we arrive at that stage. But there will be a process of selecting mayors and selecting speakers. But like I tell you, it's going to be a qualitative process that will make sure that people who take these responsibilities have what it takes. They are not going to be a liability in the municipalities, because if they are liabilities, they will be liabilities at the expense of the organization. We don't want people here who think this is their time to eat. That now it's our time. We've been watching the ANC guys
Eating alone.
eating alone. So it's our time. We're now on the dinner table. No. We don't want such things. We want people who will come with an attitude of infusing a paradigm shift in the local government sphere, and who will come with initiatives and who will come with progressive initiatives and thought process. We're not going to come with an intention of becoming rich overnight. We'll say, no, now it's my time to be rich. We've been watching these people and so on. So we're going to outline the process of selecting the mayors and the speakers and the leadership of municipalities at large.
Recently, SG, we've just passed the date, which was the date for anti-illegal immigrants activists to push for the agenda that those who are not registered, those who are without papers in the country, they should leave the country. The movements that have been in the forefront of such have been March and March, led by Umam Jacinta. There's been Comrade Phakelo Mthakathi, Comrade Ngizwe, and other comrades who are in those movements. So the question, SG, would be to say, as a mouthpiece of the party, what is our policy position in relation to the anti-illegal immigrants activists, and what is our political attitude towards them?
No, I think let me first comment those civilians that you have mentioned. Jacinta, Phakelo, Ngizwe, and others, because there are many comrades who are involved.
Yes.
Some are behind the scenes.
Yes.
Some are directors of the company.
Yes.
Abosanele, Abonozi, and others. So let me commend them for taking this initiative, because the issue of illegal immigration in the country has become an uncontrollable disaster.
Okay.
The police have failed, the government have failed to deal with the issue of illegal immigration to a point where it just became a normal misconduct to see illegal immigrants here. The police were helpless, the police themselves. That is why in some instances they would accompany the march-to-march comrades and watch them, chasing out illegal immigrants. But also the damage which has been caused by illegal immigration in this country is very huge. and very severe. There are areas in our townships which our South Africans have surrendered to illegal immigrants. And those areas are centers of crime.
Yes.
That's where drugs are being sold. That's where drugs are being manufactured.
Yes.
And I always say, if you come to South Africa with good intentions, go to Home Affairs and register and become a documented foreign national.
Yes.
Because why do you cross the border illegally if you are coming here for good intentions? Why? What is it that you are hiding? Because if there's nothing you are hiding, if you are coming here maybe to chase greener pastures, this country is open for that. Go to Home Affairs, register, so that the country will know your whereabouts. Because the most problematic element about being an illegal immigrant is that when you commit crime, you are invisible.
Yes.
You are untraceable. The government can't even trace you because you don't appear in our system. And what becomes worse is that when after they've stolen these cars, because some of them steal cars and they cross borders with them, they just disappear. And and leave people being casualties of their criminality here in South Africa. So illegal immigration, the fight against illegal immigration is a genuine cause, it's a genuine battle, it's a genuine fight. And as the MK Party, unapologetically, we pledge our solidarity with the struggle of March and March. And this is not a PR stance, no. It's a genuine allegiance, it's a genuine alignment because we understand the damage which has been caused by illegal immigration in this country. The government has completely failed to deal with this thing.
Yes.
And when there are people, because we now see the outcomes, people are leaving, illegal immigrants are leaving the country.
Yes.
We're getting reports that this number is left today, that number is left today. So those are great news because these are the results which we would have not seen if we had left everything to the hands of the government.
The government, yes.
Because we must make a comparison here of what results have we seen when this thing was left in the hands of the police.
Yes.
And what results are we seeing now? There's a huge impact which has been infused and which has been inflicted by this this March and March gesture.
Yes.
So we pledge our solidarity unapologetically so. And we really don't care about people like Mbalula because we know Mbalula just opens his mouth and talks without any thought process. So he criticizes them every day because every day he's on TV, calls media briefing to attack people, not to talk about the program of action of the ANC, but to launch an onslaught against genuine citizens, against the MK Party, because he's very obsessed about the MK Party and President Zuma. So people like him must be known and be exposed for who they are. They are not patriotic. They are not patriots. They don't care about this country. The only thing they care about is the survival of the ANC by hook or crook. Even if that survival happens at the expense of the interest of South Africans and at the interest of this country. So March and March must be defended. And we can't allow, because they are advancing a noble objective.
Yes.
So we can't allow clowns and fools to attack them every day when they are feeling bored, they just call a media briefing
An attack.
and attack March and March and attack our sister Jacinta. We can't allow that. We must respond decisively. If they want to attack, they must come to us, politicians.
Yes.
They will find us waiting for them. Not to go for a woman like Jacinta, because they have victimized Jacinta for no apparent reason. While she was still on Vuma FM, they took her job and they celebrated after that.
Yes.
You know, and you ask yourself, what kind of leaders are we dealing with here? With no moral authority, no moral compass, who just in the midst of socio-economic conditions we live under, who celebrate a loss of a job of a South African. What kind of a leader is that? So they've been victimizing people, and now as South Africans, we must just take this thing to the street and say an attack to people who are advancing a genuine cause like March and March is an attack to us as the MK party. We'll never allow that. The same way we did and the same way we pronounced ourselves as the MK party on the Mkwanazi issue is the same way we must pronounce ourselves now on the March to March issue.
Yes. So, Eshi, what is your comment? Because there was people were questioning why did Babu Cyril Ramaphosa call uBhuti uPhakela uMthakathi noBhuti uNgizwa and never called Mam Jacinta to a meeting prior the date. And the response of uBhuti uMbalula was that you also called MK also called Jacinta into a meeting, and that was seen as an attempt to divide anti-illegal immigrant activist, which is Mam Jacinta neMarch and March, Bhuti Phakela neNsizwa noMnsizwa Foundation and Ungizwa. It was seen as something to divide. What would be your comment on such?
No, my comment will just go straight to March and March people and organizers. I will just say to them, they must now work as a united bloc. And they must be resistant to any elements which seek to divide them.
Yes.
Because with this cause, they are going a very long way. And the history will record them as one of our heroes and heroines who took this battle to the street and who attacked the enemy directly, who dealt with the problem directly without any fear of prejudice, without any fear of jail, of being imprisoned, of being tortured, and of being isolated. So they must really be loyal to this struggle. I don't know what triggered an invitation of these two and in isolation of others. I don't know really. I don't know their internal dynamics, if there are any dynamics. But what I would say to them is that this is a very challenging moment. And it's a defining moment for the history of South Africa. So they must be vigilant. What they've done is a rare gesture, is a rare commitment. And for that, they are going to they will receive lifetime accolades from South Africans for the initiatives they've taken. Well, I don't know what the discussions were about. About, between March and March and the Matras man. I don't know what the discussion was all about. But Mbalula is very petty, and I don't think as South Africans we must be worried about Mbalula, because we must just accept him as our
Yes,
daily
he is.
problem. Yeah, that in South Africa, we've got a very childish man called Mbalula who appears on TV more than SABC News. He's competing with the news,
reporters.
with the reporters. So he appears there quite often, and more often than Indaba zika 7:30. So we must not be worried about such people who are desperate, for a spotlight, who don't know whether they are servants or celebrities, because Balula is behaving like a celebrity, not like a servant of the people. You can't, as the Secretary General, degenerate to that level. Talking about who was invited, who was not invited, and you are perpetuating it. You are behaving like a VD insurmountable factionalist. A VD insurmountable factionalist. So I don't think those are the people really you must be worried about as South Africans. If we are serious about building this country, we must just encourage much and much comrades to continue working as this solid block.
Yes.
Because if they allow to be divided, they are going to fall. But if they are united, they will stand still. Forever.
No, I think it's clear. The 1st and the 2nd of August, we are approaching the second national voter registration. As the party, any plans?
Yeah, huge plans. And we've already started. I know there's a great feeling of unease at a ground level.
Yes.
By our ground forces. And that is a genuine concern.
Yes.
About the lack of support that they experienced in the previous voter registration weekend. And, if you are a leader, you must take responsibility. We apologize to our members on the ground, and we are working on improving. What happened will never happen again. We've already started. Next week, I'm summoning all the relevant. You will also, because we are playing a very critical role.
Yes, yes.
And we are doing very well. I think I must compliment you. Because I know we are a very capable leader that our society should never ignore. And
don't promote her,
so they gave you this portfolio fits in your capacity. I'm saying it was a first of its kind, I know, but it was given to the right person who understands it. You just need to be given more support, in my view.
Yeah.
And we are going to improve in that regard, I can promise you.
Okay.
So we really apologize for what happened, and we are working tirelessly and around the clock to ensure that during the voter registration weekend of the 1st to the 2nd of July, our comrades will work.
I think August.
Oh, sorry, August. August. We'll work with the necessary support. We'll have the necessary support. We'll have T-shirts. We'll have tape cloths. We'll have everything which they need. Well, I can't promise gazebos to all of them, because we are a new party.
Yes.
We're not in government, but we will try. With limited resources, we will try. But what transpired previously, I can put my head on the block, will never happen again. It happened because of the surrounding circumstances.
Yes.
I think not out of our individual selected choice, but it happened because we were faced with a very unfavorable situation.
Situation, yeah.
But we will try by all means. Like I've said, next week we're starting to prepare for the 1st and the 2nd
Okay.
of August, because we want to have an oiled election machinery,
Okay.
which is moving smoothly without any hindrances.
Yes.
So we're working towards realizing that primary objective. So plans are intact.
Okay.
We're rolling them out next week. We will keep on communicating with our branches, our structures, as to what will happen. But we will improve. But we must commend our membership, the membership of the MK Party.
Yeah.
I always say, I've never, since I joined politics, I don't know when, because I joined politics a long time ago, when I was a student, in high school, by the way, before I went to varsity. I've never seen an intact, committed, and loyal membership like the membership we have in the MK Party. Remember, we went to elections in 2024. The party had no funds whatsoever. I remember in my branch, you can go there now, you will ask them, because I was a branch activist in 2024. I had no position in the MK Party. We were running our campaign using our resources. I was an attorney at that time, running a law firm. I was taking monies from my law firm, funding my branch. In its outlook, you'd think it got some funding from somewhere.
From somewhere, yes.
We had bibos, we had T-shirts, we had everything during the 2024 government, national government elections. So we funded everyone. I mean, not me alone. I know that was the case across. People sacrificed their monies. In the previous voter registration weekend, the financial support from the party was not adequate, was not pleasing.
Yes.
So, but people are still standing with their party, even though they are strongly aggrieved and from a genuine point of view.
Yes.
And I understand where their anger comes from. Because they are now saying, we're now an official opposition
In the
even though we're not in government, we're in parliament. We're getting monies from the IEC. So why are we struggling so much? Like we struggled in 2024. It's a genuine concern. It's a genuine grievance, and we're working. We're doing everything in our power to ensure that a mistake which happened in the previous voter registration weekend does not happen again.
No, I think that's well articulated. What are the plans, SG? If I ask as a ground force, do we have any plans for election manifesto, any launch, any rallies upcoming, any programs, any campaigns? Are we even election ready? Are we ready to take? Are we going to take elections? I think there would need your input.
Yes, we're more than ready. There are many programs in place. Remember, when these structures were elected,
yes,
the election structures, we drafted the terms of reference for them, which are very programmatic in my view, because they give guidance to programs which must be conducted in branches on a weekly basis. On Fridays, they must do Green Fridays. On weekends, they must do visits to our traditional leaders, to our traditional healers, to clinics, public, service centers. They must do door-to-door campaigns. They are very programmatic, and if we comply with the terms of reference, and with the terms of reference, I can tell you for free, the MK party will secure victory on the 4th of November. I'm very optimistic. But secondly, we are also having national programs. We are going to announce dates, but we are planning to have 2 rallies.
Okay.
We're planning to have a rally to launch our local government manifesto.
Yeah.
Yes, we're planning to have it in Mpumalanga,
Okay.
in Bombela, which will be addressed by our president, President Jacob Zuma. We are also planning to have a Siatata rally on the eve of our elections, of the election date. So those are the programs, but also they are not limited to those, because we are also having service delivery and anti-corruption marches, like the one we had in eThekwini.
They were quite big, very big.
Very
massive,
big.
yeah.
Very, 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 very massive. And I last saw a march which was big like that one. I don't know when. Even the ANC has never had.
They just never pulled that.
Yeah. They've never pulled such
Never.
numbers. Yeah, they've never. It was the first of its kind. So we will do it now here.
Okay.
In Johannesburg.
Okay.
And I think really there must be synergy between the SGO and your office, because I think your office, your scope of framework is relevant to these programs.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we will have those matches also across. We want to do them to all metros.
Okay.
So from here, we must go to Mangaung, Cape Town, Eastern Cape, because that's where we have metro municipalities. So we're quite busy. There is no weekend with no political responsibility. You must know that if you have 2 T-shirts, they are not enough. You need to buy more. Because if you have programs from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you have 1 T-shirt, you are going to smell armpits. And it will be difficult for us to hang around with you. So well, you must buy T-shirts because there's no time for we wash or we lean and wear it on the following day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to emphasize the point that it's quite busy until the 4th of November. There is no political lull moment.
Let me say we win elections overwhelmingly. What are the plans? Are we ready to govern?
We are ready to govern. You know where it starts? It starts with deployment. Okay. Because that's where the heartbeat of the rot is in the ANC. That's where the center of the problem is. The cadre deployment.
Yes.
We must be very meticulous. We must use a qualitative approach when we select the people who will represent us in the leadership responsibilities of municipalities. In other words, you can't just deploy a mayor who doesn't know whether he's coming or going.
Yeah.
You must deploy somebody who will turn the municipality around. Capable leaders, that's number one. Because without capacity, there will never be any positive change. There will never be any transformation of any kind in any government sphere. So we must be very meticulous, and we must be very vigilant, and we must be very qualitative when we deploy. Our comrades must deploy capable leaders who will understand that in the spheres of local government election,
Mm.
in the spheres of local government, in the spheres of government,
Yes.
local government is a strategic government sphere which we must use to change the people's lives, because local government is very closer to the people. When
So
people have a problem of water and electricity, the municipality is just around the corner.
Mm.
They just go there to raise their dissatisfactions
Yes.
and service delivery concerns. That is number one. Number two, if you are a progressive party with progressive policies, you can use local government to enhance local economic development, to enhance township economy. For instance, why is it difficult for a municipality to have a policy, a procurement policy, which says we procure everything as the municipality from the local businesses? If we're building a hall, for instance, blocks must be procured from a local business, a person. You can't go to, if maybe you are building a hall in Guanongoma, you can't go purchase blocks and cement from Pietermaritzburg.
Or in Durban.
Yes, or from Durban, from a huge company. You purchase from around. Why do we not have a policy that say there must be set aside for young people in a procurement policy, that when we outsource, 50% of what we outsource must benefit young people, for instance? Why do we not have a policy that the municipality must have a budget which will be used to empower small businesses? We inject capital, but we don't end by injecting capital. We also monitor those businesses when they are running. We monitor them by giving them the necessary skilled people who are going to, infuse their skills in such businesses, maybe for a period of 12 months. To say we don't end by giving you 5,000 rand, but we're giving you a capital of 50,000 with the relevant personnel that will work with you, and give you guidance for free for a period of 12 months. Not this thing of buying washing machines for small businesses and think we've liberated them. You buy washing machines, you buy fridges, you buy cupboards, you buy pots, and so on. That's not how we can enhance local economic development. We must enhance them by using government funds on a long-term basis to benefit those businesses. Not only by injecting capital, but by also establishing a strategic partnership relationship with them. To say, we're buying from you. If there are 5 young people or black people who are manufacturing blocks, those people must know that the municipality, either through a service provider who got a tender from the municipality or through the municipality itself, they are going to buy from those people. Toilet papers, when we have government departments, if there are people who are manufacturing toilet papers, we just buy from those people, and purchase those toilet papers for clinics, for municipalities. The cleaning equipment, we just buy it from around. So I'm saying there is a lot that we can do under the local government municipality to empower our people in different ways. Not, our the current government is underrating the importance of black people. They think it's enough to hire a black person as an EPWP employee and give him 1.5 per month. What is that? 1.5. I always say even Ramaphosa's dog does not eat food equivalent to 1.5
a week.
Yes. So their workers, some are earning 800 per month. And you'll be shocked if I can tell you that I received some of the complaints from various municipalities of people who are saying, on our pay slips, we don't earn what is written on our pay slips. Some on the pay slips are earning 2.5, but in actual sense, they are getting 1,000. And these ANC corrupt people are saying, no, the other monies are going to our accounts. I mean, are going to fund the ANC campaigns. What is that? We're exploiting the poor. The poor.
Volunteers.
From 2.5. How can you exploit a person who earns 2.5? But it doesn't end there. They also weaponize this team of APWP to enhance their votes. They weaponize it against people who don't want the ANC. They use it as a scheme for ANC volunteers to manipulate the minds of the people. And if you don't wear the ANC t-shirt,
don't get a job.
You don't get a job. So we're having a heartless government here, exploiting our people. And that is why we're saying enough is enough. If we don't get rid of these criminals on the 4th of November, we will stay with them for the next 5 years. And they will continue doing what they are doing now. Unabated. Yes. Unabated. So the sooner we get rid of thugs, the better.
Hey, I hope for this one, SG, you don't you don't fight me. But I saw here online that you are building your own faction. I saw here when I'm perusing cell phones that apparently yourself, Tony Ngeni, and the National Chair Nhleko, you are a faction fighting against other individuals, even with the removal of the former spokesperson. It was a factional move. Are you a factionalist, Chief?
No.
Are you also hijacking the party?
I always ask myself, what does it take to hijack the party? Such a big organization. Where would I start if I hijack it? I'm always asking myself really that if I can have such intentions, where would I start? Where do I go to branches and say, hey, this is mine now? Do I go to the IEC and say, no, register it under me? How do I do it? I don't even know. But look, if I was a factionalist, I'm the one who came with the idea of consultative through the organizational reports of consultative forums. The previous SGs have been appointing leaders across using their own discretion. And of course, I know that ultimately that was espoused by the collective.
Yes.
But from an initial stage, they just appoint their people. I mean, people using their own discretion. So if I was a factionalist, I was going to appoint my people across. I was never going to encourage a democratic process that says this thing must be determined by the majority or by the membership of the party. Let the wisdom of our membership prevail.
Yes.
That's where you must start to make your analysis. If you are a sober politician, to say, okay, well, if this person is factional, why upon his arrival, he comes with a new system that says let's have consultative forums. And the idea of consultative forums was not to elect, but was to encourage comrades to, on consensus, make a determination on who must execute which task
Yes.
where. And I only attended 3, if my memory serves me well, consultative meetings. I attended Johannesburg. I attended 4. I attended Johannesburg.
Yes.
I attended Pietermaritzburg, Moses
Yes.
Mabhida. I attended eThekwini.
Ethekwini.
I attended Islanda. Out of how many regions? If you are saying Nomvalo manipulated those processes, how? Because our comrades from the officials, from the PTT, and yourself as well, and our comrades who were assisting, presided over those processes. And they were making appointments.
Yes.
And I was saying to them, just allocate positions because you were there. So you understand, you have a sense of what transpired, who is capable at the first value and so on. So I gave them that discretion to allocate positions to people, and I received reports. So how can a person who wants to hijack the party have an open door policy
Yeah.
like that? A policy that says, let's work as the collective. A policy that says, let's let the will and the voice of our membership prevail. Let it prevail. Because if I wanted to steal the party, I was going to continue with the established norm of doing everything on my own, appointing structures, and say, no, these are the relevant people. But the dissection we made at a leadership level as a collective was that this methodology, this criteria has never worked for the party. Because if I go to Limbombo where I know no one at the ground level, where I know no one into detail, if I go there and make appointments, from which perspective and from which briefing am I going to rely?
Yes.
Because the likelihood is that I will meet a factionalist there who has a proximity to me and who will only advocate for his friends.
Yes.
And you would find that these friends are not even enjoying support on the ground. They are rejected by the masses on the ground. And I appoint those people relying on that briefing. So that is unsustainable. And that is not helping the party at all. So we said, for a change, let us establish this process.
Yeah.
Now, my brother, even if you can go to elections, you will have people who are not going to be satisfied with the process. Those who were not satisfied with this process, they started to label it. They said Nomvalo is coming with a new concept of conferences. Nomvalo is coming with ANC tendencies, and so on and so forth. But what makes me sleep peacefully at night is that at least the interest of the organization has been catered for. And the majority of our membership is happy. I know each and every democratic process has casualties.
Yes.
And those who are in leadership positions, that is why they are lamenting. It's because some of them did not come back. But they must not take it from a negative point of view, because if they continue to be loyal to the organization, history will remember them and they will come back, because that's how politics, unfold.
Yes.
Today you are in a leadership position. Tomorrow the membership can give you another opportunity. So they must not take this thing to heart. It's just an organizational process. And I was not there to say elect this one, don't elect that one, take this one, don't take that one.
Yeah.
So it has been an organizational process, because the bigger picture here is to build, is to surrender this thing to an organization, is to build organizational culture,
Yes.
is to build an organization with a life of its own. An organization, even when I'm sleeping as the SG, which runs there in a region, in Nelson Mandela, in the
Yes.
Eastern Cape, even when I'm not there. But you know that the organization is in safe hands, because there is leadership which takes care of everything of the organization.
Mm.
I thought I must clarify that as the first point. Then, secondly, with regards to these comrades that we are talking about, and the allegations of building my own factions and so on, I work with all the officials as my political colleagues. I work with all of them as my political colleagues. Comrade Tony Angeni is the second deputy president of the MK party. Comrade Ntlego is the national chair. Every time when we prepare for the officials meeting, I have to speak with him, Comrade Ntlego, to speak about the agenda, and so on, and the logistics of a meeting, because he is the national chair. So there's no way I can avoid speaking with him. Number two, a decision which was taken about this comrade was a collective decision. By the way, a decision to remove the spokesperson was taken before I came in.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
The letter, the decision was supposed to be communicated when I was announced, but the new spokesperson had not terminated his contract with the previous employer.
Oh, okay.
So a decision had long been taken. It was just waiting for implementation. That's what people don't know. But it was expedited by elements of ill discipline to a certain extent. But it was bound to happen. But it was expedited, and unfortunately, I was the SG at that time. That is the most inevitable coincidence. So it got expedited now by these elements of ill discipline, elements of what is that thing? Institute, duversalism. So, and then there was a DC process, and then after that, posters were made about us, insulting us, the leadership, and then a lot happened, which resulted now into expulsion. So I never, because we were busy in Cape Town, I was only talking with some family members of Comrade Muzi telephonically. I was not there. Okay. The family went to the president to lodge their complaint against these two comrades. And the president was very angry. And he asked, why have we not dealt with these comrades? So it means we don't have leadership here. If the family can complain to this extent and there's no consequence management, I was not there. The chief whip of the National Assembly can tell you she was there. So it's so unfortunate. I'm part of that collective. I take ownership of decisions which have been taken by the collective. I don't isolate myself. And I'm the chief communicator of decisions which have been taken. And unapologetically so. So I can't feel sorry because people attribute out of their stress, attribute all those things to me. I know that's bound to happen because I'm the SG, I'm the chief communicator. But I will never stop communicating decisions of a collective because of these unwarranted and unfounded attacks. I'm a politician. I come a long way with politics. I've been involved in much more heated dynamics like this. This is just a minor issue to me. Tweets and so on. You'll never destroy me by Twitter. You never destroy me by Facebook and so on. So, because I'm a thick-skinned individual, I just listen to these things. I just hear about them. Just listen to some crazy voice notes. But I no longer listen to them to voice notes. And I always discourage people who forward voice notes to me and say, no, man, I don't have time for this. So there is no personal decision or unilateral decision which I've ever taken against anyone. And if anything, I've always been working with the attitude of wanting to work with everyone.
Yes.
Since my arrival, I have an open door policy. I say, guys, this task is very huge. It can never be achieved by an individual. Let's come together and work in pursuit of organizational growth, in pursuit of advancing and deepening the aims and objectives of the MK Party as an organization. So these are just attacks which will always be there in the revolution, especially when we are a leader. You must not be a crybaby. When people attack you, then you say, I can't work today.
Why me?
Many attacks have been coming in different forms, including concocted fake intelligence reports. I know all of them. I know the network. I know the network that concocts those intelligence reports. I just caught one some weeks ago, done by senior leaders who just decided to meet over a very cheap bottle of whiskey and concocted a report against me. Then I detected that report. Then I said, I will challenge these ones. I will now behave like a lawyer. I will just compile all evidence of what they are alleging here, and they must come and prove. But if they don't if they don't prove, there must be consequences. So those are elements that we have. When you just have, and I'm told after concocting that report, they celebrated, they were laughing, we're done with him. And they submitted that report.
But why would someone do that?
To the leadership. No, I'm saying those are elements that we need to deal with in the MK Party. Elements of always wanting to outmaneuver each other for no reason. Elements of propaganda, lies, queues. Some of the queues, when people are queuing up to see the leadership, they are just going there to lie. To lie. And some are programmed. People organize. I just caught one. There was a grouping there, which was in a 24-seater, 22-seater when I got in Nkandla. They thought I don't know them. They were coming from a certain province. So they went there. When they go there in separate groups. When they are coming from the same branch. And when they arrive there, they say, no, I'm coming from Mpumalanga. I come from Free State. I come from Northwest. So people who are coming from the same branch and pretend as though they are representing their whole country, the entire country. And they lie. And the most common language here, infiltration. That Bonkosi is an ANC member. We know he works for the ANC. He's infiltrating. He's an agent.
Provocateur.
Yeah. He's an agent provocateur. He works for the ANC. Why are we doing those things? For whose interest? When we just decide to peddle lies against certain comrades in the organization because we want to outshine, we want to outmaneuver, we want to get rid of them. For whose interest? We must never be obsessed about positions to a point where we want to destroy each other with ease. Because that's what has killed the ANC. They've allowed factionalism to reign supreme.
Yes.
To a point where it became an insurmountable cancer. They are now having an animal called factionalism, and they can't help themselves now.
Yeah.
They can't. That is why, even after this huge decline, you've got leaders who behave like Bheki Mtolo, Mbalula.
Yeah.
Because factionalism is deep-seated in that organization. It's reigning supreme. It is the order of the day. So we can't. I always say, let's nip this thing in the bud, because we are still a new party. We're at a formative stage. So we still have chance to deal with this thing, to dismantle it before it can even grow in the party. You know, let's stop these things and work as brothers and sisters. Let's not be obsessed with destroying one another. You know, with these comrades that you were talking about, both of them, I don't have a problem with them at a personal level. I know Tutu has a very good personality.
Yes.
I view her as a sister. No hatred whatsoever. Nothing. But I can't operate outside my collective, and I can't compromise organizational principles on the basis of personal feelings. I can't.
Yeah.
If we take a decision as a collective and we agree on it, I must defend that decision in the public domain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are unfounded allegations. These allegations of factionalism.
It's just a rumor monger.
Yes, wanting to take over. And so where do I start? You know, when I want to take over this party, maybe comrades must tell us how to do it. How to steal $1 million. Yeah.
So on I was also watching on the news. There's a view that Umkhonto weSizwe MKP deploys in Parliament and in the Madlanga Commission. We are the ones who have been pushing for General Khan to be called to come and appear, while the EFF and its leadership were pushing otherwise. How has it been? Is that true or false? What is the position of our deployees in Parliament in relation to that?
You know, the good thing is that the ad hoc committee is on YouTube. So if you want to watch something, or if you want to watch some proceedings, you just go there and look for that specific proceeding which you want to watch. We're on record as the MK Party. I was there.
Yes.
It was a visual meeting. We're on record calling for the invitation of General Khan to the committee.
Yes.
The first person who disagreed with that, not who stopped, because those are two different things.
Stopping and disagreeing.
And disagreeing, yes.
But disagreeing can be a first step towards stopping.
Yes. Who said, I don't understand why General Khan is part of this list, is the president of the EFF.
It's on record.
It's on record. You can go there. That's what he said. He said, I don't understand why Khan is here. I don't understand why so-and-so is here. We're discussing the list of people who must be invited to the ad hoc committee. It's there. And the committee, because I don't remember anyone in that committee agreeing with the invitation of General Khan.
Yes.
So the committee then was lobbied to that view. And the committee now, agreed that Khan must not be called into the committee. Into the ad hoc committee. But the reality of the matter is that the MK party is the only party which called for the invitation of General Khan. I think Skosana even made an assertion during that session that General Khan was invited to the EFF Galatina. I don't know the table number he was in, but
it's all on record.
It's all on record. It's all on record. So I have not gotten an opportunity to watch the Madlanga Commission.
Okay.
When Honorable Shong was there, I've not gotten an opportunity to watch his testimony. But that is what I can account for as a member of the ad hoc committee.
So there was some resistance from the leader of the EFF.
There was some disagreement.
That no, I don't think this should be.
Yes. You know, even we're saying, I remember we're even saying there, because we're mentioning Khan. Who else did we mention to be called? I think we mentioned Zuma. We mentioned Cyril. We mentioned Mbeki.
Okay.
Because General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, when he appeared for the first time before the committee, he made an allegation that during Mbeki's term, there was an infiltration in the operations of the police.
Okay.
He even said he remembers that at some point there was a sabotage of the security of President Zuma. He was driving around with cars with no air conditioners and so on and so forth. So we said Mbeki must be called as well.
To come and testify.
Yes, because according to General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, that was informed by political interference into police affairs. I remember the EFF leader, when he responded, he said, no, we're calling Mbeki for what? Mbeki is not a mechanic. He's not a mechanic. We are calling him for cars, air conditioners and so on. So he tried to downplay it like that.
Yes.
He tried to diffuse it like that. But he never agreed with us calling General Khan. I mean, that's a fact.
You pushed.
We pushed as the MK party on numerous occasions because, and the person who was driving this thing is Honorable Skosana.
Okay.
Yes, he's the one. You know, sometimes I would even call him and say, give me some facts about this Khan person. Say, no, General Khan is the one who was invited into the EFF Galatina. Drugs, these drugs that, don't know, he was involved in a drug scandal and so on. So it's a fact that Julius Malema disagreed with the invitation
of General
Khan. Let's go to YouTube
and replay.
And replay. We will hear what he said.
No, but
also my sentiments around the ad hoc committee now generally. My sentiments are that we missed an opportunity.
Okay.
As the ad hoc committee. That's a reality. We missed an opportunity to dig and trace the rot in its totality. In subs. Some people, when they want to downplay the testimony of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and his media briefing, are saying no, he alleged that there is an involvement of NPA, there's an involvement of judges, magistrates, and we have not found that. No, but Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is a police officer.
Yes.
It's in his right, and it falls within the ambit of his official responsibility to allege, and on the basis of prima facie evidence.
Of course.
And whose responsibility is now to establish facts and to make a further investigation on, or prosecute rather,
Yes.
and to make judgments and so on. That's a responsibility in a normal court environment of a prosecutor and a judge.
Yes.
But there is a lot that has happened after the 6th of July last year. There is a lot of rot which has been exposed. And that rot outweighs the lack of ascertaining the involvement of the NPA and the judiciary.
Yes.
But the rot was important and very fundamental for South Africans to know,
Yes.
because this rot has been prevailing at the expense of South Africa, because the NPA, the police, in terms of the value chain of our justice system, are at the entry level.
Yes.
And once there is rot there in SAPS, even the NPA is going to be weak. Even our courts are going to operate like a sketch.
True.
Because the police are not doing their job properly. So if this rot has been in IDEC, IPIT, SAPS, Hawks, I was very shocked when we were told by Kat Matlala that he had an ice boy who was a police officer.
Imagine.
I think that guy is a sergeant or what, I don't know. So that's how deep-seated and that's how detrimental this rot has been.
Yeah.
To have hardcore criminals calling the shots
in the police.
To have commissioners, a whole commissioner stealing a fridge, which was donated to the police for a ceremony. Sbia.
He takes it home.
He took a fridge home. A fridge which was less than 10,000 rand. Donated by Kat Matlala. So it was necessary for South Africans for that criminal, network to be exposed.
Yes.
You can't prove everything, really. It's impossible in this country because crime is too advanced.
Very.
Yeah, it's too advanced. So we must appreciate General Nhlanhla Mkhwanase for what he has exposed and for what we have experienced as outcomes of that media briefing of the 6th of July. In 2025.
No, thank you very much, SG, for your time. I think your team is also complaining that you are due for a flight.
Okay.
Let's postpone all our questions for the next sit down. I think we need one very soon, so that we can discuss other pending matters, because we still have much more to discuss. Thank you for coming and blessing us with your presence.
Pleasure.
We genuinely do appreciate you to come from time to time and giving us information which is much more necessary. Ekhaya, sicela nje ukubonga. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please, on your comment section, you can comment by suggesting the other leaders of the MKP that you can also invite to have a chat with here on the Open Dialogue podcast of the MKP. Igama lami uBonkosi Khanyile. Ngiyabonga. Ngiyazehlisa kunina nonke. Salute.